Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I hope you're all doing great and safely. My name is Kenny Mo, Sales Manager APAC at Grandstream Networks. I really appreciate Alloy for making arrangements for this. Today's webinar will be on Grandstream's wireless access point, GWN series, and the management solution, GWN Manager. Please welcome our instructor today, Hugh, Director of Support for North America and APAC region. Hugh?
Thanks, Kenny. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out to join us today. As I mentioned on the chat window, feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation via the chat window, and I'll try to answer them as we go along. But from what I understand, most of the attendees today are sort of new to the Grandstream portfolio. And so it's very exciting for me to be able to share with you some of the existing and new developments that we have on the wireless side. Now, Grandstream, throughout the industry, we've been known as a voice over IP company. But a few years back, about 3 years now, we moved into the wireless access point business. And since then, our portfolio has grown substantially, and our devices have been deployed worldwide and in many situations. And in some cases, in very large deployments, like throughout the Philippines. So our access points are definitely something on our portfolio that we're very proud of. And so today, it is my pleasure to show you some of our solutions, as well as some of the software solutions that we have for our access points. So once again, ask questions at any time via the chat window, and I'll try to answer them as we go along, and we'll get started. So the GWN series are Grandstream's lineup of access points. And for those of you that have dealt with Grandstream for some time, you'll notice that a lot of our phone models have acronyms. And the GWN, I guess you can say, stands for Grandstream Wireless Networking. So that's a very easy way to remember it. It's probably not the official meaning, but that's how we like to think of the name, GWN, for Grandstream Wireless Networking. But for Grandstream, we try to keep things as simple as possible. One of our specialties is making very complicated and complex products easy to use, easy to deploy, and of course, very easy to afford. And the same goes for the GWN series. We have a lineup of 2 types of access points, basically indoor access points and outdoor access points. Now, one of the things to remember about Grandstream, again, is we try to make things easy. And so, for example, in a lot of different vendors, they have different lineups of access points, different models that are specializing in a particular feature set. For example, another vendor may have a whole series of access points specifically just for mesh networking, or they have a specific lineup of access points, obviously for client access, regular client access, and then they might have another lineup of access points just for roaming type setups. And what we do at Grandstream is we combine all of the features into every single one of our access points. So you can pick any of our access points. Actually, let me give you one asterisk there. Everyone except for one model, and I'll explain to you in a little bit. But in general, you can pick any single one of our access points, and it'll have the same feature sets as all of the other access points. And so when we do it that way, it makes it a lot easier for you as a reseller or a solution provider or a system integrator to be able to pick and choose which access points to deploy. And it all really depends on range and on capacity. And so we'll cover some of that today. We'll also cover the different ways that Grandstream allows you to manage all of your access points. We have several different ways of controllers, and all that comes with a very similar feature set as well, and we'll cover those in details later today. So we'll start off with our indoor access points. Right here, I have listed six of the current indoor access points that we have. Starting off with the 7630 on the top left, all the way down to our older access points on the right. So I guess you can say from left to right is new to old. And we'll cover each one of these one by one. The one access point that stands out from the crowd here is that middle access point that's a rectangle shape, the GWN 7602. This is a very specially designed access point that actually turns out to work a lot, to work in many more scenarios than we had originally envisioned. And so we'll cover these. The 7630 access point is the top of the line indoor access point that Grandstream currently carries. This is a 4x4 802.11 AC Wave 2 device. Being that it's Wave 2, it supports MU-MIMO, or multiple user, multiple input, multiple output technology. It's a 4x4 as mentioned, so 4 internal antennas for transmission and the 4 internal antennas for receiving. All of our access points support PoE, but some of the higher capacity access points, such as this, also supports PoE+. If you really want to utilize the maximum capacity of access points, such as these, you would want to be using PoE+. The GWN 7630 supports up to 200 concurrent Wi-Fi client devices. So for large and dense deployments, such as conference rooms, or conference halls, this would be a great place. Universities as well as schools are also a great place to deploy these indoors. The 7630 has a 175 meter pickup range, and all of our access points have anti-hacking secure boot software in there. For some of you wireless networking geeks that probably remember the old days of the WRT 54G, where you can load your own operating system into the access points and routers, because we support secure boot, you would be unable to do that. Hackers would be unable to modify the operating system in all of our access points. We'll go over this a little bit later, but the GWN 7630 has an embedded controller that can manage up to 50 other GWN access points directly from the web interface of the access point. Therefore, there would be no need for you to install any separate controller, whether it be hardware or software. Everything can be controlled, maintained, and contained within a single access point. The GWN 7615 is the 3x3 brother of the GWN 7630. Everything is the same except for it's a 3x3 instead of a 4x4. So the same great capacity of 200 concurrent clients or more, and the same great range of 175 meters. The 76, let me skip this one and go to the 7605. This is the mid-tier. This is the 2x2. So as you can see, from high to low, high end to low end, we went from a 4x4 to a 3x3, and now we're at a 2x2. With the 2x2, it has a 165 meters range, which is about 10 meters less than the bigger brothers. And it supports up to a little more than 100 wireless clients connected concurrently. So those three, the three that I just covered, are our newest: the 7630, the 7615, and the 7605. The easy way to pick and choose between those are, again, with capacity and range. So you want, when you're deploying these access points, you can pick between a 4x4, a 3x3, and a 2x2, and either 175 meters coverage range or 165 meters, as with the 7605. Now, with I'm going to scoot around here a little bit because we do have some of the older access points here, which is the 7610. This was our first access point that we released. It's a high capacity access point, but because it's about 3 years old now, it's a 3x3, but not multi-user MIMO. It's only a single user MIMO, which means it's 802.11 AC wave 1, but everything remains the same. The 7600 is also I guess you can call that our first generation device. It is a 2x2 MU MIMO, or 802.11 AC wave 2, but it has 165 meter coverage range. The 7605 that you saw earlier is replacing the 7600. And now for the black sheep of the family, the GWN 7602. And I say black sheep because this particular device is so different than the rest of our access points. In fact, when it was originally designed, it was designed for a very, very specific deployment scenario, which is, for most cases, the hospitality industry. And we've noticed that worldwide, the demand for in-room Wi-Fi for hotels is still increasing. And in a lot of older hotels, especially in APAC and older parts of North America and Europe, some of the older hotels are made out of, old brick and concrete buildings. And for those type of deployments, wireless signals don't do well in thick concrete walls. The signals have a hard time passing through really, really thick walls. And so in those type of hotels, having access points installed along the hallway is great when you're in the hallway, but when the users are inside of the hotel room, the wireless signal is not that good. So, the hotel guests would then have to try to look for a wired connection. But these days, a lot of laptops, for example, iPads, iPhones, they don't have Ethernet ports. And so Wi-Fi is still a very, very important aspect for travelers and hotel guests. And this is where this device comes in handy. It's a very, very cost-effective device, so cost-effective that the customer, such as a hotel, can afford to install one in every single room or one in every other room. And when I say that it is specifically built for a hotel, the reason for that is it also has a built-in switch. It has 4 Ethernet ports in total, 1 gigabit Ethernet for the uplink, and 3 fast Ethernet ports for connections. 2 of those ports actually provide PoE output power. So you can use that PoE output to also control or power on additional devices. And when you think of a typical hotel situation, one of those devices may be an IP phone that's sitting on the desk and another IP phone that is in the bathroom. So with this access point, not only will you be able to provide wireless access to the hotel guests, but also provide power to the devices within that room without having to run additional power cables. And lastly, we have a third Ethernet port for IPTV. So we've noticed also that a lot of hospitality environments and hotels, they're switching over to IPTV now instead of your traditional, coax or satellite type cable. Everything is done via IPTV, and that third Ethernet port is perfect for that. And so, as you can see, this device was specifically built for that situation. But with the whole pandemic that everyone has experienced, this device has also been very popular for the work from home situations. A lot of people are still working from home. In fact, Grandstream, all Grandstream employees are at the moment, we are scheduled to work from home until the end of October. So it's been March till October. It's quite a long time for us, but when working from home, not every home has the best Wi-Fi, and not every home is going to want to install an enterprise grade access points like what we've mentioned previously. And so with the GWN 7602, this is a great, very affordable access point, and small, where you can send it home with every single one of your employees that need wireless access at home, and they'll be able to not just get Wi-Fi, but they'll also be able to power on their IP phones that they're using for communications. And so this device has, as mentioned, been very, very popular outside of the original implementation ideas. And again, it's a very unique device within our portfolio. And that's why I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this than the other devices. All right. Any questions from anyone regarding the indoor access points? We have quite a few there. We currently have 6 indoor access points. All right. So on to the next category of our access points, which is the outdoor access point. Now, with the outdoor access points, we currently have actually 3 now, and about to be 4, but I'll just cover 2 today. One is the GWN 7630LR and the GWN 7600 LR. The LR at the end stands for long range, because these access points do have greater coverage than the indoor access points, but they are all rated for outdoor use. The GWN 7630 LR is our newest access point. In fact, it is our first access point that allows you to use external antennas. This is the top of the line access point that Grandstream carries. And again, it's an outdoor device, but it's also the high-end 4x4 antenna, 802.11 AC Wave 2. It has a coverage range of 300 meters, and it comes with 4 external antennas out of the box. Each of these 4 antennas are omnidirectional. However, they use industry standard connectors. So if you wanted to use directional antennas, you can easily swap them out and use any third-party brand antennas. In those cases where you want to direct your signal in a particular location rather than everywhere. All right. It has a 2.33 gigabit per second wireless throughput with 2 gigabit wireline ports. Now, again, it is the high capacity, high end access point, so it supports up to or more than 200 concurrent Wi-Fi connected clients. The next AP is our first outdoor access point that we created, which is the GWN 7630 LR. This has been a tremendously popular device, and it's our first generation. Being so, it is a 2x2 compared to the 7630 LR, which is a 4x4, but it has the same great coverage range of 300 meters. Now, the great thing about our outdoor access points is that they all come with the mounting hardware included. Whether you want to wall mount it or pole mount it, all of the hardware comes within the box. So there are no additional accessories that you need to purchase. Everything for your deployment is in the box, including an Ethernet cable if that's required. Okay. And now here's a kind of a comparison chart of our access points. It's a little small to read during the presentation, but we can definitely provide all of these tools to you after the presentation. We can send it via email, and we can send you a link with all of the resources to all of our access points. And I guess one of the important things that people want to know about our access points are some of the deployment scenarios. It's great that we have all of these access points, but it's better to know how they're being used. And so we'll cover some of the more popular deployment scenarios that we've seen throughout the world. And hopefully that gives you some ideas on where and how to use these access points. Now, outdoor venues we have here, such as a golf course, soccer fields, for example. The outdoor access point, the outdoor long-range access points are great solutions. I guess when you're out playing golf, you need to check your email if you're playing during working hours, and having Wi-Fi during that time is essential. And with the single access point, you can basically cover up to 2 soccer fields, or I guess instead of saying soccer, I should say football, because it's called football in the rest of the world, except for in the US. But with the single access points, you can cover up to 2 soccer fields or more in length. And you can create multiple different networks from a single access point. In fact, you can create up to 16 different SSIDs per access point. So you can have a different network for your guests and a different network for the internal staff and employees. Another great deployment scenario is in office parks or office campuses. When there are office buildings that have multiple buildings where you need to network together and have a single SSID that can be used across the whole campus. Our access points can be used, our outdoor access points can be used on the outdoor areas, with the indoor access points being used inside. And because you can use a single controller to manage all of these access points, they can all share the same SSID and credentials, so that users can be able to roam between access points without having to reconnect to the Wi-Fi or re-authenticating to the network. As mentioned earlier, university campuses are a very popular deployment. We've done many universities worldwide. With the university campuses, typically, from my experience, they use either a predetermined authentication credentials, or they connect to an internal radius server via 802.11x or 802.1x, such as Microsoft Active Directory, as in a lot of universities authenticate that way. But in university campuses, you're able to use our GWNs to integrate with all of their existing systems for authentication. And again, outdoor access points for the outdoor common areas, as well as the indoor access points for the classrooms and indoor offices. Now, Armando had a question. For creating multiple SSIDs, can we also set different bands per SSID? Absolutely. You can select or set different bands on a per SSID basis. So for example, you can have one SSID use the 2.4 gigahertz and another SSID use the 5 gigahertz. And you can even have a third SSID that uses both, and so on and so forth. Again, you can have up to 16 SSIDs per access point. But great question, Armando. Here is one of the most popular deployments for Grandstream access points, and this is in the retail space, especially for locations such as restaurants and coffee shops. You know, our access points are perfect for these particular scenarios. One of the reasons is because we also include the captive portal feature in all of our access points. And not only that, but we were the first, I believe, yeah, we are the first company that came out with a web-based click and drag captive portal designer, so that you can easily create captive portals and deploy them without any HTML, CSS, or markup knowledge. Simply click and drag all of the features and images and text that you want when you're designing your captive portals, and you can deploy them into your scenario. And this is great in coffee shops, for example, where you can have advertisements show up prior to them being able to access the internet. And I think the last time I was in Manila, I was at the Starbucks, and in order for me to use the free Wi-Fi, I would have to buy something first. And so I bought a cup of coffee, and on the receipt, it had my individual voucher code to use the free internet. And we also have that feature built right into our access points. You can create vouchers, and each voucher can have its own set of limitations, such as bandwidth, time used, time activated, and so on and so forth. So the vouchers can be individualized, it can pre-print it, pre-generate it, so that you can use for even situations where you're having a conference, etc. Armando asked another question: can we set VLAN per SSID and integrate with existing firewall? Absolutely. You can create VLANs on a per SSID basis as well. So for example, if you have an SSID for your guests that come visit your office, you'll definitely want to make sure that those guests are on a different VLAN than, say, the accounting department. You don't want them to be able to access all of the information, the secure information that the accounting department typically handles. So yes, we can create different VLANs per SSID. Cool. So yeah, those are just some of the more popular deployment scenarios. I don't think we listed on their hospitality, but that's also a great deployment scenario as well. We have many real world deployment examples on our website under case studies. I think this is a very good place to look if you want to have an idea or get ideas of how you can use our access points. And if you're new to selling Wi-Fi, for example, it'll be a great place to start to help you figure out who you can sell to. So it helps you target which customer base that you can contact and help get these access points deployed. All right, I have one more question, and then we'll move forward to the network management section. Let's see here. For the voucher application, is it available for all models? The answer is yes. Again, almost every single feature is available on all of our access points, except for the GWN 7602. The GWN 7602 probably covers 99% of all of our features, but there are a handful of features that it doesn't support, just because it wasn't built like the other access points. But everything else, all of the features exist on all of our models. Thanks for asking the question, Toby. All right, in terms of network management, I guess traditionally one of the issues with enterprise grade wireless is that it was very complex. It was very hard to install, deploy, and manage. Um, and it really required, highly experienced uh, and dare I say expensive network engineers in order to properly deploy a fully functional and effective wireless network. But again, in true Grandstream fashion, we take the complexities away and make everything as easy to use as possible. And one of the ways that we do that is we offer a number of different management choices. As mentioned earlier, all of our access points, except for the GDBN 7602, has an embedded controller, which again means that you do not have to buy or install a separate controller in order to manage your access points. Depending on the model that we have, the embedded controllers can manage anywhere from 30 to 50 of our other access points. So in a scenario where you are installing less than that amount, there is no need, if you choose, there is no need to use a separate controller. I know traditionally, in order to manage these type of access points, you would either have to have a separate hardware controller that's on premise, or you would have to install some Java software, Java-based software on your computer in order to manage all of your access points. But with the embedded controller, that takes all of that away and makes it a lot easier. Another option, the most popular option, is that we provide a cloud-based management solution, which is called the GWN Cloud. This is completely cloud-based. So anywhere that you have access to the internet, you'll be able to connect to GWN Cloud to manage your access points. So instead of using the embedded controller, you can have all of your access points be managed by GWN Cloud. And in particular instances where you are a system integrator or a managed service provider and you have many, many different customers, you'll be able to organize them in a way within GWN Cloud so that each customer can have their own dashboard within the GWN Cloud. This definitely helps out with having to travel on site for troubleshooting or to make simple changes to the wireless network. It also, because it's cloud-based, it also helps you avoid having to reconfigure their firewall for port forwarding and worry about all of the security policies within their network in order for you to access the management interface from a remote location. With the GWN Cloud, you can access it anywhere that you have internet connection. We also have a smartphone app for GWN.Cloud on iOS and Android that allows you to manage it directly from your smartphone, as well as easily add access points to your portal using the camera and scanning the barcode on each access point around their boxes. So a very, very popular solution. And lastly, we have the GWN Manager, which is everything that the GWN Cloud is, but in a software form that you can install in your own server. And we'll cover each one of these in a little bit more detail in the next few slides. I have one question here. RJ asks, some access point problem is the compatibility with routers like MikroTik, etc. Is it okay or advisable if an open source platform might install just to fix those particular solutions? Actually, the great thing about networking, and I'll say this in comparison to voice over IP, is that these are actual protocols that in most cases everyone follows. SIP is a recommendation, and so it can be translated many different ways. But with networking, everything is uniform. Everything must be followed, and our access points will work with any router out there. You know, whether it's MikroTik, Cisco, etc. It'll all work just fine. The management portion again is only these options here. So you would not be able to manage your access points using third-party routers, but you would have the ability to use our access points with any of those brands without issue. Thanks for the question, RJ. So again, with the embedded controller, just really quickly, to access the embedded controller on our access points, it's very easy. One is you log into your router's web interface, and once you know the IP address of your access point. If not, you can also type in the discovery code into your browser, and you'll be able to log into the web interface of your access point. You can choose to go through the setup wizard and completely set up the device from there. If not, like myself, every time I see a setup wizard, I always hit cancel. I prefer to set everything up step by step, because you never know what a setup wizard does, right? You never know what settings they change. And so I prefer to just cancel all out of that. And from there, if you go to the access point menu, you'll be able to see all of the automatically discovered GWN access points within your network. And from there, you can add them to your network, and you can make the changes directly from the interface. So just for an example, on the GWN 7630, you're able to manage up to 50 other access points. You'll be able to manage all 50 of those access points from a single interface. So you don't have to log into each access point one by one. You can just log into what you would call the master access point and control and provision and manage the rest of those access points. Makes it a lot easier. Okay. Now the GWN cloud that we talked about earlier, it is very easy to access. You go to gwn.cloud on your browser. You sign up for an account. It's completely free, and it allows you to manage anywhere from 1 to 1 million access points per account. I know that here we have listed unlimited number of sites and APs, but I believe it is hard-coded to 1 million access points. But you know what? If you need more than 1 million access points, please give me a call directly, and I'm sure we can work something out for you. Again, the GWN cloud is completely free, and you'll be able to access it from anywhere that you have an internet connection. To use the GWN cloud, very easy. You sign up for an account, you log in, you add your access point under devices, and you enter the MAC address along with the unique password that each access point comes with, and you click on add, and you're now able to manage them. Not only will you be able to manage your access points, but you'll also be able to monitor and view the performance and statistics of each individual access points, as well as the client information as well. You'll be able to see the number of clients connected, how much bandwidth they're using, and if you have the feature enabled, and of course you want to check with your local authorities to see if this is legal within your country, you'll be able to, you also have the ability to turn on website monitoring, so that the GWN cloud will record all of the websites that each client visits. Again, make sure that your government allows that before you go off and enable that feature. And here is just a couple of screenshots on the gwn.cloud smartphone application. Very similar to the web portal, but in a smartphone or a tablet form factor, so that you can easily manage your access points from anywhere you have internet access. And lastly, one of the newest options that we had was the GWN Manager. And again, basically everything that you see on gwn.cloud, we packaged it up into a software package so that you are able to install that into your own server. In a lot of situations, a lot of companies and enterprises, such as financial institutions, they're still, or their security policies have not been updated to allow them to use cloud-based solutions. And this is where the GWN Manager comes in handy. They'll be able to install the GWN Manager on their own server within their premises, within their enclosed network, and they have full control over all security aspects. So in those cases, GWN Manager is a safe bet for them. And we have very, very low system requirements for GWN Manager. Here are just the main requirements. Basically, we require that you run CentOS version 7 or Red Hat Enterprise 7 and 64-bit variants. As a minimum, we recommend a minimum of a Core i3 3240, which is a very, very slow or low power CPU. And we recommend 4 gigs of RAM or above. I think most people have more than 4 these days. And 250 gigabytes of hard drive space. And we do recommend using an SSD because it does give better performance in terms of read and write speed. Right? And it's very easy to use GWN Manager because it automatically discovers your access points via a layer 2 broadcast. So if the access points are on the same broadcast network as your GWN Manager, the GWN Manager would automatically discover them. But if they're on different networks, you can also manually configure the GWN Manager address within the access points. And lastly, if you have control over the DHCP, you can also use DHCP option 43 to automatically assign the GWN Manager address to all of your access points. And so from there, as soon as you boot up your access points, it'll automatically contact GWN Manager, and you'll be able to control, manage, and provision all of your access points. So with the GWN Manager, because it's installed on premise and in the customer's own enclosed network, obviously our access points need to have a way to know where the manager is. With the GWN.cloud, however, it's cloud-based, and all of our access points are programmed to contact the cloud by default. So you don't have to do all of these additional steps for cloud-based access, only for GWN Manager. Again, I know that this is a very, very quick webinar, but just wanted to introduce everyone to our lineup of access points and give you some idea of how they're being used in the real world. On September 10th, we'll be having a Grandstream Certified Specialist Academy training in which we will discuss and demonstrate the additional details of how to use and configure our access points. If you're interested in attending this free course, and a certification will also be given at the end of this course, visit academy.grandstream.com and register for the course on September 10th, or actually September 10th for me in Los Angeles, which will make it September 11th for you in the Philippines. So if you're available on that day and would like to learn more details on it from a technical standpoint, please sign up for the course, and I hope you enjoy today's webinar as well as the course coming up in a couple of weeks. Any questions? Any additional questions? I see some questions, which I'll try to answer. Oh, no, it's the same question from RJ, so we're good to go. Cool. If you have any questions in the future, or if you can think of any questions later on, feel free to contact the team over at Alloy. They have tremendous experience in deploying our access points, and they've done a really, really good job on some of the larger projects that you can imagine. Kenny, also our sales manager for the region, is also available to answer questions at any time. Other than that, I'll pass it over to Kenny to close it out.
Thanks you. Thanks so much for all your attention and interest in our products. Also some great questions. We're going to share the presentation material and recording of the webinar. So you'll be able to get them from Alloy, of course. So thanks again for joining the webinar today. Hope you have a great day today and be safe. Okay, see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.